According to research data, the construction sector accounts for over 30% of total greenhouse gas emissions, the main cause of global warming and climate change. With more than 25 years of experience in the field of sustainable development and green building design in the United States and Asia, Mr. Douglas Snyder, Executive Director of Vietnam Green Building Council, established in 2007, has been implementing meaningful activities to promote sustainable construction, raise awareness, and build capacity for the development of green buildings in Vietnam, contributing to the Global Green and Sustainable Development Goal. VGBC was officially recognized by the Ministry of Construction of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam in March 2009, and also participated in the establishment of the World GBC Asia Pacific Network in September 2009. In June 2016, VGBC became a locally registered Vietnamese social enterprise to further its mission.
Welcome to Station Vietnam, Chạm Việt Nam on VTC10. And today we are going to have a very interesting conversation with a special guest who comes from the city of Rochester, United States, but he has more than 11 years lived and worked in Vietnam. Please welcome and introduce Mr. Douglas Snyder, the CEO of Vietnam Green Building Council. Welcome and thank you so much for being in our talk show today.
Thanks so much, Tom. Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
So since this is the first time you are on VTC10, so could you please tell us about yourself and also the story that led you to Vietnam and worked in the sustainable development field?
Okay, sure. Yeah. So like you said, I'm from Rochester, New York, and I've been doing green buildings since 2003. I was an independent consultant in the United States, in New York and in New England for about 10 years. And then, maybe not everybody remembers, but there was an economic downturn in 2008, 9, and 10. And I had some grad school classmates that invited me to come to Vietnam, see what I could do here. And I decided to take a chance and see how it would go. I thought I would only be here for 6 months, but here I am actually almost 12 years later and very happy to be doing the work. In terms of sustainability, my bachelor's degree is in environmental science. I graduated in 1992. So the environment has been on my mind for over 30 years in terms of how we should or could protect it. And I also did some coursework in architecture. So I was always kind of between construction and the environment. And so I fell into green building in 2003 and then was able to continue that here in Vietnam. I'm happy that I was able to keep doing it here.
That is a very great combination between your major construction and also your passion, environment. So you know that recently the phrase green development has been associated with many industries, not only construction. But maybe people don't really understand clearly about this phrase. So how do you define the definition of green development, green buildings?
It's about sustainability. And basically the goal is to not compromise the lifestyle or the benefits of the future because of what we're doing now. And we want to conserve our resources and what we have. So that's the quality of the natural environment. It's the quality of environmental health and human health and how that interacts. So we want to keep everything healthy and strong and vibrant so that we can continue long into the future. And so in terms of development, that means we need to conserve our natural resources. So our biodiversity, which is our habitat, our water supply, which is our rivers and lakes and how that all works. It's our natural resources in terms of materials.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So do you think that many people in Vietnam acknowledge about this trend and definition of green development?
I think it's growing. Now what we see from a property development and construction perspective is that all of the major developers are now aware that there is something called green building and that perhaps they should be doing more of it or committing to it fully. I think on the demand side, on the consumer side, it's still kind of a new thing. And that's kind of my job, or our job, is to educate all the different participants and stakeholders in the market so they understand what is green building. So if there's a family that's going to buy a home, they need to have a basic understanding of what they want to look for to protect their family, to protect their children, and to save some money and to be more comfortable. And then in terms of the developers and the architects and engineers, we also work to train and educate them too. Yeah.
We mentioned a lot about buildings, construction, but many people may wonder, like, why construction and building, they have such a great amount of emissions, like account for more than 30% of the gas emissions. And how is this number in Vietnam? Is it higher?
Right. So yeah, most people know that, well, when they think of the environment or they think of climate change, they don't necessarily think about buildings. Buildings, they don't move. I think that we're always in them, so we just forget that it's always around us, so we don't pay attention maybe. But yeah, so buildings, globally, it's around 37% of emissions. In Vietnam, it's about a third, so around 33% is the latest numbers. So it's about the same as the global average, and that's more than any other sector. So when we're looking at other sectors that contribute to climate change, yes, it is transportation, it is manufacturing, it's also agriculture is quite big, transportation, and then buildings. Buildings is the biggest one. So it's something that a lot of governments and people and developers are now waking up to. All the architects and engineers out there, all the property developers, we are the ones that are responsible most for climate change. And so we are the ones that actually need to lead on showing commitment and making real changes to stop climate change.
So since you have more than 20 years, like persistently contributing and pursuing their sustainable development goals, with a particularly focus on promoting green buildings in Vietnam for more than 12 years, as you said, how do you feel about the development process in construction sector in Vietnam in recent years?
So something that's helped accelerate green building is Vietnam's commitment at COP26 to carbon neutrality by 2050. So that has kind of lit a fire underneath green building for the market and helped it grow. The VGBC was founded in 2007. We released the first green building system made for Vietnam in 2010. So since then, it's been like a slow, steady increase of awareness of green building and certifications of green building. But I think now, currently in the last 1 to 2 years, it's much more considered, and there's a lot more projects in the pipeline. So I think that the growth right now is much more aggressive.
In recent years, the trend of building and developing green buildings has received increasing attention from businesses and real estate investors in Vietnam. This is an inevitable trend in the context of the world facing major challenges of climate change and global warming. Not only that, green buildings are built and developed to meet targets of limiting emissions and energy consumption, but also bring high efficiency to both investors and home buyers. Therefore, VGBC has reached and implemented many training activities, raising awareness and updating the latest knowledge for businesses and investors in Vietnam to be able to keep up with the current trends of the world. Most recently, VGBC has successfully coordinated to organize events from villas to land developments, circular economy in construction sector, innovative finance clinic, scaling up green finance for buildings in Vietnam, with the Asian Development Bank ADB. In particular, VGBC has built and developed the Lotus Green Building Evaluation Criteria System, developed specifically for the construction market. It is the only certification that fully incorporates Vietnamese building codes while also adopting international standards and best practice in establishing its criteria, with the goal of promoting and encouraging nature-based architectural solutions or passive design in addressing health and comfort goals for building users.
So now we move to the Lotus certification. As I see the logo on your vest, it's really impressive.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
So what inspired the selection of the name Lotus for this certification, and how does it relate to construction sector in Vietnam?
So the lotus symbol, well, when Lotus was developed, kind of like 2007 to 2009 is when it was being put together. 2010 is when it was released. I actually wasn't in those planning committee meetings, but we wanted to make a system, and of course the logo that is localized. It's for Vietnam, and so here's the first visible uniqueness that is applied or is used for Vietnam is the lotus, because lotus is a flower that represents Vietnam in a beautiful way. But also the petals of the lotus represent the different categories of green building. So there's some systems that are about buildings or environmental assessment for buildings that cover maybe just water or just energy, but it's mostly the systems that are developed by the Green Building Councils that are very comprehensive. That's seven to nine different categories of impact, and that's what we do. Yeah.
Talking about this certification, it is voluntary, I know, right? So what motivates businesses and enterprise? They choose this system to apply to their buildings.
This is the number one question I get, and I'm kind of one of my most excited answers to give. So we know that green buildings save money. Because a green building has more oversight, it has better quality control, which means it has lower risk. So green buildings perform better because there's more people looking at what's being done and making sure that it's being done right. So you have better quality control, you have lower risk, cheaper operations because of lower energy consumption. Then you can look at the value of that building. So green buildings, the resale value of green buildings in just Asia is anywhere from 4% to about 20% higher. So the resale value in Vietnam, it's around 8%. So when you sell that property again, you can look at a higher resale value compared to a non-green building. So you have better financial position in that way, which is fantastic. Also, if you do green building, you also have access to ESG funding. That's something that's still being developed. It is happening, but it's going to become very significant, because right now it's around 30% of the investing in Europe, and that's what will be coming to Vietnam, is this huge pool of money that is looking for projects that they can invest in. The last thing I would say is the marketing cachet, which is the kind of the marketability of a building. So if you're competing in the market and you want to have that little bit of edge over other buildings, you want to have a green building certification. And that's going to give you a story to tell about comparing how much you care about your employees, you care about the environment, and it's real. It's demonstrated, it's measured, and so I think it's very important that property developers that want to show that they're community players adopt green building.
So thank you so much once again for being here today in our talk show. And as a Vietnamese, I really appreciate all of your contributions to Vietnam for more than 12 years. That's really amazing. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
So that is the end of Station Vietnam, Chat Vietnam today. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next episode. Goodbye.